It's midday, midweek, time for Middays with Mark. Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Congressman Mark Pocan is with us, taking your calls for the hour. He's the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, represents Wisconsin in the U.S. House of Representatives. His website, pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan. Congressman, welcome back.
Hey, Tom. Thanks. So glad to be here.
It is always super having you on. So the shutdown, it's interesting to watch these dueling narratives. The Republicans are trying as hard as they can to get the message out that this is all the Democrats' fault. And yet the Democrats passed legislation out of the House to open the government back up. And Mitch McConnell's refusing to hold a vote on it. I saw an interview this morning with a Democratic member of Congress on TV, and I don't want to get too into this because, for whatever, and in which she was asked, what are you guys in the House, you Democrats in the House of Representatives doing? And she went into this long explanation and never once just simply said the bumper sticker, which is, we've already passed legislation to open government, and Mitch McConnell won't allow a vote on it because Donald Trump tells him not to. And it seems like every Democrat needs to memorize that sentence, or am I just too stuck in my media consultant head or whatever? And by the way, let me tell everybody who's listening, if you haven't heard the show before, or if you just tuned in, Congressman Pocan is with us for the hour. He's taking your calls. The telephone number is 202-808-9925. To you, sir.
Yeah, Tom, I mean, you're exactly right. What I tell people back home is I think we've sent 8 bills or so over. We're sending more over this week. We're supposed to be in district this week, and we're back in Washington trying to reopen all areas of government with a shorter extension and continuing resolution for Homeland Security, so we can continue to have a conversation about border security without shutting down people's tax refunds and shutting down all the other areas of the federal government that are currently shut down. And we keep doing that, but there's 2 people that are holding it up. Mitch McConnell refuses to take any of the bills up in the Senate, even though almost all of them are identical to what they sent over unanimously in December to the House, but Paul Ryan didn't take up. And the president, because the president, I mean, uniquely, this is the first shutdown that the president has caused. Usually it's been Congress having a disagreement with the president. This is one where the president caused the shutdown, and now Mitch McConnell is tied at the hip on this. So you're exactly right. We are sending bill after bill after bill to reopen the government. It hurts the economy. It hurts our federal employees and contractors. And we need to do our adult job of opening up government. And yet it's the Republicans who simply refuse to.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, with the calls, the lines are filling up here, so shall we start picking up our phone calls?
Sounds good, absolutely.
Okay, great. James in Bell, California, listening on KPFK. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, hi. I'm really concerned that the message isn't getting out, and I think you need to think in terms of theatricality. There's that counter for the national debt. How about a counter for the number of times that you voted in the House for a clean bill to end the government shutdown? So basically, and also you could have like a big electronic counter, and you stand in front of the counter and you say, we voted to end the shutdown 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, and you just keep get that image out there of the number of times that you voted to end the shutdown. Get that on video, on TV. Get it on your re-election literature. Get it out there as much as you can. Even have print it out, and then have your members of Congress running to McConnell's office, carrying here's the end of the government shutdown. Here's the paper. We've signed it. We're voting for it. Here it is. And you keep doing that every day. And remember that the Republicans voted to end Medicare, or not Medicare, but to end Obamacare. What is it, 40 times in the House, and they voted time after time after time, the same kind of stunt, and that got out there. So you got to get that message out there, because people just are blaming you guys as much as the Republicans.
I think James is brilliant, Congressman.
Yeah, James, actually a lot of that is happening. So I think we will hit this week double digits into how many times we've sent bills over. So that is adding to exactly what you're saying. We did have a group of freshmen have gone over with Where's Mitch, and went over to try to find him, and they can't find Senator McConnell. So that's also happening. And by the polling numbers, I can tell you people are understanding this. I think it's no surprise that the last poll I read, 35% of the people blame the Democrats, which is around the same number we constantly see who support Donald Trump. So Fox News reports it differently. That contingent, that 35% of Donald Trump's base, is always going to continue to blame us. I don't see that changing. But I do think we do have the upper hand on, by sending a bill over and over and over back to the Senate to reopen government. That message is getting out, but I agree with you. Every way that we can reinforce that is exactly what we need to do. In fact, this week we're actually outlining the specific money on border security because we're trying to highlight, the president says drugs are coming across the border, and yet, 90% come in ports of entry. We're putting money to ports of entry to deal with what the president says he's trying to solve. So I think we're getting more specific in that message, and we're going to keep doing it.
Martina or Martinia, am I saying that right, in Madison, Wisconsin?
No, Tom, thanks. That's Martina.
Martina.
Hi, Mark. It's so good to hear your voice again. I'm one of your tribe, District 2. So, I personally believe it's time for us to be planning for a general strike. I think that we need to be contacting our affiliate groups. I think we need to be planning meals because freedom begins with breakfast. You can't act intelligently on an empty stomach, really. So we need to be feeding one another and having food service and food delivery and that kind of thing. We need to be planning meetings, general, open, documented strategy-type meetings so that we can figure out what we're going to do. But we need to come up together as a unit and say, hey, enough already.
Yeah, so Martina, I think a lot of us are. In fact, one of the things we're looking at is this, I think, bad provision that doesn't allow federal employees to strike. It ties their hands completely, and they're being forced to work for nothing. I don't think we ever anticipated we'd have a president who, one, was the first president to shut down the government, and two, that it would take it this far because they have no regard for the people who work for the government or the services they provide for the American people. So it is a unique situation. I completely agree with you, and thanks for calling from the district. Tom, yesterday I met with TSA workers and with air traffic controllers. And one of the things that we are trying to do is work very specifically, Martina, with the unions that represent these employees to make sure that we're not doing anything that damages the work that they're also doing. It is the airlines are pitching in buying food for TSA workers. We talked to one of my air traffic controllers actually resigned over no guarantee on their job. The head of the union told me he just got rid of cable because he can't afford it anymore. Other people are selling cars for equity. So we've got to raise the game, and I think we have to do it on behalf of those people who are most impacted. But I think we are looking at other ways to raise awareness, Martina, but also we're doing it in coordination with the people affected, because the last thing we want to do is do anything that would make their situations worse. But I do think just in law itself, we are not treating the people fairly that are being affected by this, who are the federal employees and the contractors, and the ripple effects that are found from this.
Marcia in Englewood, Florida. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, thanks, Tom, and hi again to you, Congressman. One of the things that I've been doing very, very aggressively that is begging whoever will listen up there in Congress, the senators, the representatives, to start making a point more and more about El Chapo and how a wall never stopped him. All the ways that he came through over his decades of working, his criminal activities, nothing had to do with a wall. So I think that's important. Finally, for the first time, I heard one Massachusetts representative point that out, okay? And another thing I want to point out is I think Trump is really getting off on all this attention. He hasn't had this much attention since he ran for office.
That's an interesting point. Congressman?
Yeah. So on the first point, again, I think, we've been told by the federal agencies that also are reporting to Donald Trump that over 90% of the drugs that come into the country come through ports of entry and other spots. They're not coming across the border. So that's, first of all, the first fact that's out there. Secondly, if you have steel slats, which is currently, I guess, the newest version of the wall being proposed by the president, depending on the hour and the day, the idea that there's a slat means things can still go through, so that doesn't really solve their problem. So once again, doesn't seem to address it. I think, they're not very credible. We need to point out the facts that everything that they claim they're going to stop with the wall isn't going to happen, which is why exactly we're fighting not to put money into something that's such a big waste of money.
Yeah, amen. Excuse me, it's Middays with Mark here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We're talking with Mark Pocan, the congressman from Wisconsin, the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Sorry, I'm distracted here. Back to focus.